Okay, we should be going live about now. Welcome everybody. It always takes a few minutes for the live stream to start, and it should be working. I'm going to share with you some tips and some suggestions about how to ungaslight ourselves when we're dealing with narcissists. As we know, this is something that's quite common. I assume most of you do know what gaslighting is. However, I will be explaining very briefly, and then we go through a few points. And there are quite a few points actually to see if someone is gaslighting you and understanding what to do about it. So we know the example is typically saying, or a narcissist says something to you, such as, let's go and have lunch on Saturday. And when comes Saturday, you ask, are we supposed to go and have lunch? And they'll say, I never said that. I never said that. You're hallucinating, you've got memory problems, you don't remember what was said, and so on and so forth. The definition of gaslighting, and I looked this up, is basically to manipulate someone into questioning their own sanity or their own powers of reasoning. It comes from the movie Gaslight, 1940s movie, I think, with Ingrid Bergman, if I'm not mistaken, where a man makes his wife believe that she's going crazy because he turns on a light in the attic, a gas light, which makes all of the other lights in the house become dimmer. And she sees it's becoming dimmer, and he basically says it's not becoming dimmer, that is your imagination. This is what they do, for instance, when they claim that they never told you something that they clearly did tell you. And it is also the case when they claim that you did something that you never did. One person claimed that he had dinner with a relative of mine and myself, even though I knew for sure that he had not had dinner with us. It was his wife who had had dinner with us, but he was so adamant about it that I had a hesitation. Like, could it be possible that I actually forgot? Is this really possible? So, of course, I asked the relative, and the relative said, no, I never met this person at all. Met his wife, absolutely, but never met him. And, of course, it can be weird to go and check with a third person, just check our sanity. But that's how persuasive they can be. And often it's just repeating the same lie again and again and again. Exactly what Goebbels was saying. If you repeat the same lie often enough, people end up believing in it. Now, when we deal with people in general, there can be moments where we're not certain if we are being gaslit. If they're two different stories, it can be hard to know if we are being reasonable or maybe we're making a mistake. We don't want to come across as being too arrogant. We want to listen to the other person, and knowing how to balance this can be really tricky. And they, of course, are likely to be playing this to their advantage, which of course can be terribly unnerving. Now, there are a few tricks I want to run you through, a few techniques we can use to rebalance our vision of reality, to not only stop questioning our own sanity because we observe what we observe and we know what's really happening, and also to regain the powers of reasoning. Our powers of reasoning. One of the goals of this channel, incidentally, is to help you increase your powers of reasoning. It's to share the techniques, the logic that helps reclaim sanity and just think more clearly, think more objectively, and avoid giving power away to dishonest people who are manipulators, who mess around with us. So I'm going to go through the various points. Please let me know when you have questions. I'll stop at various points in what I'm going to share. And then if you have questions, I'm happy to clarify. Let me see how I do this. We use the iPad because I'm going to take some notes, and I know that sometimes it's easier to visualize when there's some things being written. Yeah, this should be good. Hi UNA, hi Kay. Yes, this should be good, and it's going to be a bit more like a workshop. This is more like the work that I do with my clients when I have sessions with them. So some of the work is this type of work, so more cerebral, and other things is more about the emotional release and then seeing things a bit more clearly. So I'll start with a story. The story, of course, I'm making it anonymous because I'm respecting the confidentiality of the person I spoke with. So I'm making it a bit more blurry than I would do normally. The story, in essence, was that there was an event being organized, and let's say the two people, person A, person B. Person A was invited to the event, and person B is a friend of person A, close friend for a long time, and also a friend of the people organizing the event. And person B asked to be invited alongside person A, which was accepted. Person A going there was part of the organization of the event, and person A was also going with family members, and one of the family members, for various reasons, required some level of help and attention. This is, I don't want to go into details, but imagine this is the level of help and attention any sane person would not just say is acceptable, but is absolutely natural. No one would go, that's unreasonable. It's obviously, given the circumstances, this person is a priority, and you're trying to balance between everyone, between the host, between the family, and between person B, who's sort of half the guest. So, they go to the event. Person B shows up late at the event. Person B drinks far too much. Person B behaves provocatively, embarrassingly. Person B, at one point in the evening, collapses asleep in somebody else's room, and then next day person B leaves. That's that kind of dynamic. And so I'm talking with person A, and person A says, well, I feel bad, I apologized, because it's true, I wasn't really that available. I understand she was disappointed because person B wanted to spend more time with me. And, I apologize for that, and nonetheless, person B was still angry. So, I'd like to show you exactly what we did. Exactly. Various types of gaslighting. So the exercise we simply did is we said you have person A on one side, person B on the other. Now, let's examine objectively. Here, I'll move that a bit because otherwise I've got B in my face. There we go. Let's examine objectively what person A did wrong. Objectively, person A was a bit overstretched because they were too optimistic. That's true. They were too optimistic. They could have been a bit more realistic. They could have said, this is happening. I'll warn you, I'm not going to be that available, so I'm going to do my best. But, person A could have managed expectations a bit better. Okay, sure, fine. Now, let's see what person B did objectively, quote unquote, wrong. Person B came late. Person B sulked. Person B drank too much. Person B was embarrassing. Person B, at an event that was not about person B, was provocative. Person B fell asleep in someone else's bed, which stressed out person A and everyone else, and then left abruptly. Okay. This is objective. Person A's worry is thinking, well, maybe the fact that I was too optimistic caused everything else. So let's take it one by one and just see. Person B, who was late, even though was arranging to be late before showing up, so before not having enough attention, was person B forced to be late? Nope. Person B, were they forced to sulk? Nope. Were they forced to drink too much? Nope. You can add this, by the way. Play along in the chat if you like. There's a little bit of a delay between what I'm doing and the chat, but go ahead. Were they forced to act embarrassing or to be embarrassing? No. Were they forced to be provocative and try to get attention? Nope. Were they forced to be so drunk that they would fall asleep in somebody else's bed? Nope. And were they forced to leave abruptly the next day? Nope. None of that. They were not forced to do anything. Person B, a few months later, so person A didn't bring it up. Person B brought it up and said, I've got to tell you, I'm really upset. It really hurt my feelings. I came all the way to the wedding and you were not available. And this is where we look at these two and we go, okay. And the list is much longer, making it more simple to avoid boring you, but you get the idea. So person A objectively did one thing wrong. They didn't manage expectations. They were too optimistic. Fine. Here with person B, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had a list of about 12 things. Let's just say it's 7. Now, person A's picture is saying that possibly her responsibility was 100% for what happened. And person's B narrative was that her responsibility was obviously 0%. I'd suggest, let's just imagine we weight all of this equally. Personally, I don't think that being optimistic weighs the same as drinking too much to the point where you act embarrassing and provocative and you fall asleep in somebody else's bed. I mean, if you're a teenager, you don't know how to drink, fine. If you're an adult and you know how to drink and you know what you like when you drink, it's a choice, and it's a choice to do all of this. And if anyone has been drunk before, you know full well you seldom do things that you don't want to do. You just do things that you really want to do, but normally you hold back. But let's just imagine, let's say being optimistic is the same thing as being provocative. You know, acting overly provocative, for instance, or drinking too much and so on. That would mean that out of 100% of what happened, we have let's see here, 1/8 is person A, because it's a total of 8 different things, and 7/8 is person B. 1/8 equals 12.5%, and 7/8 equals therefore, 87.5%. 87.5%. Person A's responsibility is somewhere between 0% to 12.5%. Person B's responsibility is somewhere between 87.5% and 100%. Person A was indeed too optimistic given circumstances person A was not controlling. A family member needed her attention, as well as she being there to help the person organizing the event. That was out of her control. She could have been more realistic, sure, but it's part of the personality. Some people tend to be too optimistic, and some people also tend to be too empathetic, too agreeable, and overextend to avoid hurting others because they don't want to reject others. They want to please others. So yes, that is commonly the case. So it was out of her control. Everything that person B did was a choice. Every single thing was a choice. Person A wasn't really a choice, being overstretched. Person B, everything was a choice. And that is an absolutely massive difference between the two. And let me just see something. Okay. That's a massive difference between the two. Now, what's interesting here is to, if this ever happens to you, write down what you did and write down what the other person did. And just go for facts. No justification, no because of this or because of that. Simply the facts. Step 1, write down the facts. Step 2, observe. What was a person forced to do and what was out of their control? And just observe. See what happens. See what happens when you do that. And, just compare. If you have a list of 7 things one person did and 1 thing the other one did, remember that just statistically, we're looking roughly at this kind of ratio. It might be a 1 to 10, 1 to 8, 1 to 12, 1 to 4, whatever it might be. Even that, if it's skewed, and that's it. If it's not like both people do things that escalate the situation and hurt each other, fine. But if one person chooses to do things and the other person is basically in a situation, that is one thing to look for. So that's, let's say, the first point to look for to ungaslight yourself is you do this type, there we go, you do this type of graph, this type of diagram. First point. Let's move on to the second point. And the second point, take again A and B. You ask the question, who is concerned? Let me see. No, it's not who is concerned. Sorry, I prepared badly in my notes. Who is certain that they are right, and who is worried that they are wrong? In this case, we have, so the person who is certain, that's one thing to look for, is usually the dodgy person. We'll get into this again. This certain person here, in this case, is B, and the person who is worried is A. A was worried that A had done the wrong thing. A was worried that maybe A had contributed to the situation. A was worried and concerned that they could have done something better, and indeed they shouldn't have been too optimistic, and so on and so forth, and A was looking for excuses. B was very happy to say, oh yeah, the problem that we had was that you were too optimistic. That's the only problem there was. The only thing that went wrong during this event is that you were too optimistic. That's all that went wrong. Nothing else happened. Not at all. You see this even like a double level of gaslighting. The only problem is what you did. That's the only problem. First level. Second level, nothing else happened. No. And it's easy here. Easy to find excuses. I was late. Well, I was busy. And you didn't confirm early enough, and so therefore it's not my fault. Sulking, of course I was in a bad mood, of course, because I show up and you're busy, so of course. I drank too much. I've had a difficult week at work, so of course I'm going to relax. And well, it's true the wine was good and maybe a little bit, but come on, embarrassing? I think you're being judgmental. I didn't do anything embarrassing. No, you're too sensitive. You're too conservative. Provocatively, I did nothing. You're hallucinating. You probably had too much to drink. And there you get into the projection. Fell asleep. What was I supposed to do? I had too much to drink. I was supposed to sleep on the floor. Seriously? And then leaving abruptly. Oh, I had to get back. None of it is my fault. If you're watching this, you're probably the person who'd be going through each of those ones and going, oh, Jesus, I was too late. I should have shown up earlier. Yeah, I was grumpy. I was a bit too grumpy. That's not good. I drank too much. Ah, man, I know I shouldn't have. And I was stressed and it hit me harder than I thought. Oh, good grief. I embarrassed my friend. Ah, that's painful. I was a bit provocative, but it's true. I've been single for a long time and I shouldn't have done that. I fell asleep. Oh, good grief. And and then I left abruptly. I was so embarrassed. I should apologize for this. You see the skew? Observe who is certain that they did nothing wrong and who is worried that they caused something. This is another one. With each of the things I'm sharing with you, none of them is an absolute red flag of this happens, therefore. But as you're going to see, we're going to start getting a mountain of evidence that's going to be removing a significant part of the confusion of the what is it? Not of questioning your own sanity and your powers of reasoning, because here you're going to be able to reason through everything. What I suggest you do, by the way, I suggest take notes. You can watch this again, because there's going to be a lot of content. I'm going pretty fast with this. And simply practice it and start going, I'll apply this methodology. Let me go step by step with situations and see what comes out of it. And please let me know in the comments and in the chat. Let me know exactly, let me know if that's helpful, what specifically was helpful, and that's going to be helping loads of other people. Okay, who is concerned and who is certain? Now, point 3, touched upon this a little bit more. Here we go. Point 3 is responsibility. Responsibility. Observe who shifts responsibility. It's what I mentioned before. and who takes responsibility. The person shifting responsibility is pushing away all the responsibility for what happened. It's not my fault. Late? Well, it's not my fault if I'm late. It's not my fault if I drank too much. My choices are not my fault. Of course, in the background, it's not a problem. And we'll get to another point there. Observe who shifts responsibility and who takes responsibility. The person who's overstretched because person A promised to help the organizer and also had family matters and also, here we can just do the triangle. There we are. So this is organizer, family, and friend. Person A was trying to find the balance somewhere in between. Number one priority, somewhere between these two. Because you promised to go and help your friend organize, and you also have responsibility with a family member. So, of course, if you have a bit more time, well, you try to drift a bit more towards your friend, but this has to be taken care of first. A while back, I went to a city to see an old friend I hadn't seen in ages, and oops, sorry, I got this in the middle of my face. There we go. And my friend is a young dad. His wife was sick. And he just said, listen, I know I'm supposed to have dinner. I can't make it because my wife is sick. And, oops, you know what? There we go. If I can't shift the drawing, I'll just shift myself. I can't make it because my wife is sick. So I have to cancel because I'm not going to leave my wife who is sick with a baby, and the baby needs me. So that's that. And of course, yes, I was disappointed to not see my friend, and obviously it's the right thing to do. There's no question about it. Obviously, it's like, of course, you take care of your son, take care of your wife. I'll see you next time. Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know how often I'm going to see him again, and it's absolutely the right thing for him to do. So yes, disappointed, and I mean, what's the alternative? Sorry, darling, I'm nipping out to see a mate of mine, and, you take care of the baby even though you're sick. No way. That not in a million years. True friends know how to support their friends. True friends don't try to sabotage the situation with the organizer or the situation with family. True friends encourage people to have healthier relationships with others. They don't get jealous because a family member is, maybe a bit more important than a friend. Especially a drunk friend who's a bit late and who's sulking and who's trying to poop the party. Incidentally, if we look at this list, it's a question I asked person A, is simply, if person B wanted to spoil the situation, what could person B have done that person B did not do? I suggested, apart from maybe urinate in the punch bowl, I'm not quite sure. And observe also how everything that person B did is sort of excusable. So it's difficult to say, yeah, absolutely, the problem massively is you. Even though the problem obviously is person B, but it's sort of, yeah, well, all of this is excusable. If the person actually does urinate in the punch bowl, then, well, that's quite different. Okay, let's move down. We've got 2, we've got 3, and then I got a few more. Let me just check some of the camera because I think it's not focused very well. Okay. Hopefully this is going to refocus a little bit better. I hope it's not bothering you. It should be. No, it should be okay. Sorry about that. I just realized that it seemed like my microphone was ultra crisp and my face wasn't. And I know it's a nice microphone, but maybe you're more interested in me looking about right. Okay, so we had this shift responsibility. Okay, next one. Next one is really, really good. Next one, we're at number 4. Okay. Number 4 is look at anger. And this is This is quite mind-blowing. I shared stories before like this. What is the anger directed towards? Is the anger directed towards actions, or is the anger directed toward a reaction? Especially a reaction of anger. What I mean by this: one person, let's say, shows up late, gets drunk, acts embarrassing, and basically acts awful. Person A in this case is ultra agreeable, so he didn't say anything. But other people would have said, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you? This is embarrassing. You can't do this." This, what I just described, is action, is anger towards actions. Stop doing things that I'm not okay with. With toxic people, what we get there afterwards is a reaction of anger to the anger about the actions. How dare you be angry at me? I'm allowed to do what I want, but you're not allowed to get angry. I'm allowed to show up late. I'm allowed to get drunk. I'm allowed to act provocative. I'm allowed to fall asleep in somebody else's bed. I'm allowed to do all of these things, but you're not allowed to say anything. You have to put up with whatever I do. You're not allowed to not be okay with it. You see the logic? You see how wacko this is? There was a story, someone else, I summarized a story, I've mentioned it before. Someone I'd met someone, a guy met a woman when they were traveling, arranged to see each other one time, they had a few very nice days, arranged to see each other another time. He goes to see her, and things get really weird. Things get weird. She's distant, sort of on, off, hot, cold, whatever. And at one point she says, "Listen, I met someone else." So, okay, fine. In other words, basically, maybe I should leave your flat and just do my thing. No, you can stay around. And but that's why things are a bit awkward. Because, okay, well, maybe we should start being intimate together. No, we can still do that. I just, like, okay, that's... For him, a bit strange, like you met someone else, got a feeling for someone else, but you still want us to be intimate. Okay. And asking a bit more, or a few things come up, and it basically turns out that following the visit she did to his country, when she went back, she jumped into bed with someone else, and then met someone else, and didn't say anything about this, and blamed it on him, saying, "Well, you were not very communicative. I didn't think this. I didn't want to get hurt. Therefore, I did this. Basically, everything I did was your fault." So he spoke about it because he was sort of going through it thinking, it feels like there's something really important I have to learn and I don't know what it is. Yes, I'm angry, but I'm not sure what I'm angry at. And so he spoke about it. And he said, she's got every right, after we spent a weekend together, to go back and jump into bed with someone else. Absolutely. We'd spoken about seeing other people. I told her it would bother me, and she's got every right to ignore that and not tell me. And I said, yeah, I'd want to know, and I probably wouldn't come over and visit. So she lied to me, but she's got every right to lie to me. She's got every right to lie to me, to not tell me before I book a plane ticket, because otherwise I'd have saved the money. Saving money, spending time in the country instead of spending time with other people, which can be family, friends, work, and so on. So taking a week to go and visit someone. She's got every right to do that. She's got every right to mislead me, every right to lie to me, every right to do all of this. But you know what? I've got every right to be upset. I've got every right to be angry at what the person did. But she won't allow me to be angry. Because she's basically going back to everything she did and say, everything I did is because of you. And he, went through the gory details of going, we could say that. Nobody forced you to find a way to contact a guy, like a ex-lover, existing lover, or go on a dating app. No one forced you to do that. No one forced you to set an appointment to meet the person. No one forced you to go to their place or go to your place. No one forced you to walk through the door. No one forced you to take your clothes off. and so on and so forth. No one forced you to do that. All of that was a choice. All of that is your responsibility. You see the shift in responsibility? Not my fault. It's because you didn't write to me a lot that week. Really? And you another person who claimed that the reason why she started a relationship with her boss was because her boyfriend, whom she'd said she was planning to have a family with, one evening out of 365, when he was doing training, had a dinner with the trainers and the other people following the training, and wasn't available to be on the phone. One evening out of 365, and in her narrative, that made her fall in love with her boss. Really? 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 So up until that moment, you were certain you were going to build a life with this person and have a family. But that one evening, that was the tipping point. No, that's absolutely ridiculous. And then, of course, when the person goes, that doesn't make sense, it's like, you're angry at me? Huh, you're not entitled to be angry at me. Like, really? You were promising me a life together and a family. And you involve someone else. Instead of talking through issues like you promised to do, you involve someone else, and you're upset that I'm upset. If someone is upset that you're upset at what they did, that's another red flag. And okay, here we go. Let me see. Yeah, exactly. No, there we go. Okay, we have this one, and let's move to the. Actually, before the next one, I'm going to tell you another story, and this might be a little bit longer than I thought. I'm not even sure. What time are we? Okay, I hope you're enjoying it. I still have quite a bit more, but let's go through it. So, story time. Story time about Paris. Some years ago, I was introduced to a woman who was some sort of therapist, coach thing. Wasn't clear what she was doing, but she was organizing an event in Paris talking about personal development. That's how the French like to talk about coaching often. I say personal development. And she was looking for speakers, and she said, well, it seems like you might have something to say. Like, well, as you guess, I've got quite a few things to say. And I accepted. It's like, okay, we can do that. I'll come to Paris. One question was, who pays for transport and accommodation? And she basically said, listen, the other speakers, they're getting advertising. I'm not paying for any transport and accommodation. So I'm like, well, I can come for a few days. And she put me in touch with a cousin who was renting a flat in Paris. I didn't know much about Paris and flats. It was 130 euros per night. Like, it's a bit cheaper than a hotel room. I can do that. And then she said, then I can put you in touch with my clients. My clients can have sessions with you. Like, okay, fine. So we do the event. I talk about responsibility. I talk about having skin in the game in our life. How the many things we can do to make life better. Life can be absolutely beautiful. It's just finding the right path. It's being open to things, facing our fears, finding courage, and that type of thing. And she introduced me as being someone who can really help them with money, really help them earn money, get money. She really insisted on that, and I thought, well, that's really strange. I mean, I know my money stuff really well. However, that's not why people come to see me. It's not really what interests me. Something else, it's also important, but anyway, it's not the main thing. So she starts sending me clients, and I go like, I'll prolong my stay. I'll stay for 2 days. I'll take some clients. So the clients show up, and the clients are, it was quite amazing. They were so loaded, so heavy. So we start talking, and I do this, so I also do energy work that helps unblock emotions. And most of them start crying within a few minutes, and it just comes out and out. And I work on specific points to release the emotions they have, and they're pretty much transformed. I mean, it was for me, it was great training. I just finished my training there, so it was really good work. Amazing results. People just shifted day and night. And after, I think it was 2 days, the person who introduced us said, you know, you haven't discussed with her the commission that you'll be taking. Okay, I didn't know there was a commission, but I can discuss a commission. I'd already, by the way, discounted my prices because I'm in Paris. I know the French don't have much money. I want to be affordable. I want to be supportive. And then she also said, oh yeah, I don't have enough people signed up for my event. They say it's too expensive. And I say, well, listen, how about this? You can send people to me. If they came to the event, I give them a discount because I'm supporting you. Maybe it's going to help. You know, if other people do this, then it sort of makes sense rationally. They pay you, but then, you know, whatever. Big mistake. Too agreeable. Because there I had something to lose, nothing to gain. But anyway. And so after 2 days, we meet up, and so I ask about it. So, by the way, in terms of commission, what do you have in mind? And she goes, well, 30% is usually what I take. Okay, seems a bit steep to me. Afterwards, I spoke to other people, and they go, 30%? Are you crazy? 30% if the person's renting you the room, sure. But here you're paying 130 euros from the cousin every single night. She might be getting a commission from that. And you're giving 30% of your revenue to her. Anyway, I didn't want to look for conflict and so on. And what happened? I ended up staying for more time. What is it? Another 10 days or so. I was working like a maniac, 4 or 5 sessions a day, and here we're talking 90-minute sessions. It was exhausting. So imagine people processing trauma, releasing trauma, everything coming out. So on the one hand, good money. On the other hand, exhausting, and 30% going away. But anyway, I'm covering my rent. I'm helping people. They're doing really well. You know, all good. After 2 weeks, go away for a while. Because there was so much demand, I come back and I think, you know, this is going to be, I'll do more of it. Seems to be a lot of demand, so I book a place for a month, and I have virtually no clients. Virtually no one comes back. It's really weird. And so I catch up with her and just go, it's, you know, I'm not really sure what's happening. It's very weird. Before there were a lot of people. And she starts saying something like, listen, there's just something very weird about you. You know, the way you organize this, there's some things you didn't tell me. You know, I could think that what you're trying to do is steal my clients. And I started just panicking, like, seriously? What did I do wrong if you're going to think this? That I'm trying to steal your clients? I thought I was being super transparent, really, I basically thought we were together in this, and I thought I was doing the fair thing, so I was just thinking, I must have let you down terribly. What did I do wrong to allow you to think that? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. And then she tried to push over, going, you know, we should do sessions together. I think you could really benefit from working with me. Like, okay. Because, yeah, you know, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, but that's just because that's who I am. But it'd be easy to think that you're trying to, you know, whatever exactly it was. Now here, what's important is to look at, so actually what would happen, so I took like 3 days feeling really depressed. And then my body went into complete shutdown mode of, I don't trust this person. I don't know what's going on, but I don't trust this person. I don't trust the way it worked. And then I found out from other people that she'd basically been telling the clients, don't go back to see him. There's something weird going on there. What actually had been happening, I found out later, was her clients go back to see her and basically were saying, I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I don't think I need sessions for a while. Including a client who'd been seeing her every week for 3 years. So, story, seeing her every week for 3 years. Living with her parents because she couldn't afford moving out from the parents, despite the fact she was in her 30s, because she was spending all of her money with this person. And we have 2 sessions, and she goes, I feel good. I I just want to get my feet on the ground, get my life on track. I think I can do it. Goes back to see the therapist, and the therapist basically makes it out herself again. It was absolutely obnoxious. So it took me like 3 days thinking it through, completely shutting down. And then what I realized was what she did is she took the worst possible interpretation and said this is the only acceptable one. I could, or people could think this, and this is a formulation for paranoia. People could think it. So if you're like me, your mind goes, oh my goodness, maybe people are thinking this, maybe I did the wrong thing, maybe, that's terrible. You want to know what the real answer is? Yeah, people might be thinking anything. The question is, what are you thinking? If you are thinking that this is a plausible explanation, we need to have a very specific conversation, and it's going to get ugly. If you believe that there's no other interpretation here, seriously, what does that say about you? And what does it say about the way you think of me? And then take a step back. Again, remember, do the list and balance the different things. You're getting 30% of everything I'm doing. You didn't tell me beforehand. You didn't pay for my transport here. You didn't pay for my accommodation. I'm renting out a flat at a stupidly high price from your cousin. I'm making you look good. You're bringing me in order to look better by association. Of course, what she'd done is she'd sent me clients thinking he's going to help them get money so they can pay me more money. Whereas my thing was, well, if I see somebody who's in distress, let's help you get better. And, the rest is less important. So a bit of misunderstanding there. But I started thinking this is a trustworthy person. And it just didn't add up. And then I realized, it's basically running like a cult. It's absolutely disgusting. Targeting vulnerable people, just absolutely revolting. So yeah, when people accuse you of saying, people could think that, sure, people can think anything. What do you think? Tell me what you think. Go on, say it. I'll touch into this a bit later, just reminded of it. There was a person doing a comment who in a very unsubtle way was hinting at the fact that probably I, so me, Fred, am a narcissist. Probably. Like, okay. And touch into the logic behind it. But basically put it this way. First of all, I was concerned that I might be a psychopath when I found out about the psychopathy test. So I did it thinking, Jesus, on the off chance that I am a psychopath, I want to know so I can, get help. And my therapist laughed and said, that's just the sign that you're not. And my score was pretty low. But if I were, I'd be milking it. That if you want to do a channel about narcissism and you really want to milk it, you've got two possibilities. You can either be a narcissist yourself and you milk it like mad, and why not? Why not? You offer the insight, so it's great. I can think of two people who claim that they are. I've got no reason to believe they're not. My understanding is they're really helpful. They're really constructive. It's like, cool. Like you find a narcissist, normally a horrible person, turning into something constructive that's insightful for others. Good for you. Good for you. Oh, Viva Savaya. Oh, you're too kind. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Thank you. That's so nice. So yeah, if I'm a narcissist, I'd be completely milking it. That's one way. And the other way to milk it is to lower people's power of reasoning so that people become dependent. So that's the other way to milk it. But the accusation is nonsensical in the sense that if it were the case, so if someone is a narcissist with a narcissism YouTube channel and isn't milking it, they're stupid. Okay, so maybe I'm stupid. Yeah, it's possible. And maybe it didn't occur to me to check. It did occur to me to check. It's not the case. If it did, well, I'd be like, okay, this is factual. I'm trying to be a helpful member of society. So what? Yeah, so if someone does this kind of thinly veiled accusation, call them out. Just go, are you saying this? It sounds like you're saying it. So are you saying it? If you're saying it, just say it. If you're not saying it, just say that you don't believe it. But don't do this wishy-washy, thinly veiled thing. That's dumb. It's not helpful. We can have two very different conversations. This is one thing the narcissists do, is they want to bring in ambiguity because with ambiguity, other people doubt themselves. Well, they didn't really say it. They didn't really mean it. It's open to interpretation. No, remove all of that. Say what you think. Just say it clearly. It's either one or the other, or you're not sure. Okay. amusing thing with this comment the person made is they were saying to be able to diagnose narcissism, you need to have a PhD. First of all, that's wrong. You don't need to have a PhD, and having a PhD is not enough. Secondly, I don't believe I'm capable of diagnosing narcissism, and most psychologists wouldn't really diagnose it either. They just go, well, here are some of the traits, and it's a working model, and that's what we can do. But this person who was saying you need a PhD to diagnose narcissism was subtly claiming that they were able to diagnose me, even though they clearly didn't have a PhD. And it doesn't sound like they really met anybody with a PhD in their life, because they have a bizarre vision of what it means to actually have a PhD. So this is some of the rather amusing things when you look at what it is they're doing and just to call out, like, what exactly are you saying? That said, end of Paris story. Yeah, fear of confrontation, that's a big thing. Now, let's move on. I got a lot more cool things to show you. And thank you for your patience, by the way. This is going to be significantly longer than I thought, I think, but strange grammatical construction. But I think there's stuff there. Here, by the way, actually, this sort of taps into what I just said, number 5, and this is the nonsensical accusations. The nonsensical accusations typically are, I accuse you of doing one thing, A plus not A. I accuse you of two different things. I accuse you, in this case, I accuse you of being a narcissist and of claiming you can diagnose narcissism while it's not possible for you to diagnose narcissism because you don't have a PhD. Okay, but you just claimed that you could diagnose someone else. So you either believe it is possible to diagnose the person or you believe it's not possible. You have to pick one of the two. You can't simultaneously accuse people of two opposite things because that doesn't make sense. That would also be, so nonsensical accusation, this also is when they start straw manning, they take an absolute. That would be, let's say I pointed out that, okay, imagine I point out a famous actress displays many of the symptoms of narcissism, and someone goes, so you're saying that every single actress is a narcissist? No, obviously I'm not saying that. That would be a dumb thing to say. Like, who'd say that? That'd be ridiculous. You know, or throughout history, a number of wars probably were caused by narcissists in power. Okay, so you're saying that every single narcissist caused a war? Like, no, that's not how logic works. Oh my goodness, there was a loony person. This is so funny because it's such a clear example. Oh my goodness, wait, it's getting a bit political. Okay, no, I can do it. There was a loony person claiming there's no difference between men and women. Why? Because because we're told that men, on average, are taller than women. You know, statistically it's true. And the person said, well, some women are taller than some men. Not every single man is taller than every single woman. Therefore, there is no difference. Okay, that's like a nonsensical, a non-logical way of looking at data. It doesn't make sense. And when they use that and go, you say this, therefore you say that. This we're going to tap into the cognitive dissonance part of the mind reading. But that's part of the nonsensical accusations. Another person, what did I see? I will just leave it at that for nonsensical accusations. If you look at the logic between, here we go. I'll show you a little bit with that. The logic with the nonsensical accusation that I mentioned before, it was something along the lines of going, and this is actually how I think we did something like this in philosophy at one point. So statement 1 was, the person is perhaps a narcissist. Statement 2, need PhD to diagnose Okay, so in other words, you should be having a PhD. 3, can't find proof of PhD. 4, you get the idea. 4, it's all, everything the person says is BS. This in reaction to something that had nothing to do with claims of diagnosing anyone, just talking about, the type of thing I talk about here, psychological models, how do you understand manipulation, and so on. The accusation is nonsensical because it's avoiding the topic. If you disagree with something I say, you can disagree, it's fine, we can talk about it. In one video I spoke about how, here we go, I suggested when you listen to people, observe the emotions you see on the face. Take it into account. If someone seems miserable, take it into account. Don't just listen blankly. When you see life coaches, gurus, or people wanting to help people who've been through narcissistic abuse, look at how they seem. You got people who, hopefully I seem rather happy and okay because I feel pretty happy and okay, but, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Like, look at my face also. If you see anger or resentment or contempt or, any of those things, pick up on it. And I did videos where things were really tough in my life because of other things going on. Take it into account. Just always take everything everyone says with a grain of salt. If you see someone who's constantly angry and they haven't processed whatever, just remember that they're coming at things from a place of anger. So take it with a grain of salt. And this person was saying something like, oh, I've learnt helpful things from people who were angry. And what else was it? It was, anyway, happy people are superficial. Really? Are we talking about truly happy people, or about, your Aunt Jemima who's got an alcohol problem and pretends everything is good in her life? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fake happy. I'm talking about people like Mathieu Ricard, the Buddhist monk, the Dalai Lama, Paul Ekman, like people who take happiness really, really seriously and have really figured out things in life. Look at the major Buddhist monks. We all got quite a few things to learn from them. They're pretty inspiring people, pretty amazing people. Look at people like, I don't know, John Cleese, Michael Palin. They're pretty, former Monty Python guys. They seem to be in a pretty good place. Look at people who seem to genuinely be in a good place, and just look at them and listen to them. And the people who seem to be upset, listen to them also. Just remember, take it with a grain of salt. So the nonsensical accusation is dodging what's really being said, and there's no coherence inside the accusation. Okay, let's move to the next one. The next one is the signs. I'm just thinking about this. I'm going to change the numbering. I just do it different order because there's a reason for this. You're going to see why in a second. We're going to talk about cognitive dissonance in a second. Yeah, okay. The interpretations, there we go. Look at the people who, so for pretty much anything, there are multiple interpretations. Why did someone do something you don't like? You can think of multiple interpretations. You can think of charitable ones, and then you can think of horrible ones, and anything in between. If your brain functions normally, it's possible for you to consider more than one idea at the same time. Politics is a great study for this. Why did someone vote for one party or presidential candidate over another? You can think of multiple reasons. If you're only thinking of one, well, think of a second one. And think of a second one that's different. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. I remember someone was talking about, Jordan Peterson was talking about Greta Thunberg, and he put himself in her shoes. And he provided, I think, probably the kindest, the most charitable explanation of what her experience being her might be like from her perspective. So he disagrees with her on policy, fair enough. And we can disagree with someone on policy and still have a lot of sympathy. She's, slightly on the spectrum. She's young. Her parents are peculiar. She's been thrust in the limelight. She stresses out big time because of things. Whether you agree or disagree with her, it can't be easy to be her. So you've got the very charitable explanation, then you've got the super cynical one. So to be able to balance more than one in our head is quite helpful. She doesn't seem, bad, mean, evil. I disagree on a few things, and I think that the support that she's had hasn't been the best for her. But we can look at multiple interpretations. I mentioned her because she's quite divisive, very likable on the one hand, and maybe not 100% accurate with everything on the other. But she's doing her best. She's doing a lot more than other people think they're doing, or could be doing. So look at multiple interpretations, and look at especially two things. And this goes back to the Paris story. Look at who says that their interpretation, theirs, is the only acceptable one. Acceptable one. Some people will say, you and I have a disagreement, like regarding the event, regarding the party. You and I disagreement. My interpretation is right. Yours, forget about yours. My one is right. And these are the people, exactly like we mentioned before, who are going to be saying, you're angry because of something I did? That's not okay. I can do whatever I want and you're not allowed to be angry. My interpretation of this is the only one that works. Yours? There's no space for yours. So number one, theirs is the only acceptable one. Here, you know what? Be smart. I'll move it like this. There we go. Can make it better, bigger. Okay, theirs is the only acceptable one. And plus, the other one is that the worst one is the only acceptable one. This is the case with the Paris woman. The worst interpretation was, I was trying to screw her over, I was trying to steal her clients, I was trying to backstab her, I was trying to mess up her business. That's the worst possible interpretation. And she claimed that was the only acceptable one. But she did it in the sly way of going, people could think that. Yeah, but the brain processes it as being, that's exactly what you're saying. So this is something that's really, really important. Look for people who highlight only acceptable. Theirs is the only acceptable, and the worst one is the only acceptable one. You see this when people have disagreements and start calling others names. You do this, you are a whatever-ist. You're this kind of person. You are like business owners, all they think of is profit. Well, obviously not. Just basically they also think of food, obviously. But if you ever talk to a business owner, yeah, they think of profit, because the alternative to making money is losing money. That's not very helpful. Then the company shuts down, you fire everyone, and you go bankrupt. So you have to make money, but you have to make money sustainably. So to go, the only thing you think of is profit, it's the worst explanation. Okay, completely the worst explanation. And it's not even accurate. It doesn't make any sense. It just highlights ignorance, which is unfortunately quite common. So interpretations, look for this. Theirs is the only acceptable one. They won't tolerate you have another one. And if you disagree, they're going to attack you. And then the worst one is the only acceptable one. And then let's move on to, this is going to be really fun. I should do a full video on this. Number 7, which is the 7, how did he call it? The 7 tells of cognitive dissonance. I got this from cognitive dissonance. I got this from cartoonist Scott Adams, whom I highly, highly recommend you follow. He's one of the most helpful and interesting people. He's a trained hypnotist, really good in persuasion. I use some of his techniques in the videos when it comes to comparing different ideas and thoughts. His book, Loser Think, is excellent, and his podcast is really good. Very strange at first with reframes, but you get into it. Really helpful. By the way, I'm seeing loads of comments. I love it. Keep going. I'm just going with the flow for the viewers, but keep doing it. I love the fact that you're commenting. I look at that at the end. So, 7 tells of cognitive dissonance. First of all, what is cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is basically what happens when our expectation of the world is not matched by the world. Instead of revising our expectation, we deny reality. I have this theory, a working theory, that I'd like to run by some other people, but it goes something like, narcissism is basically perpetual cognitive dissonance. I illustrate that. I did this in a video where I said, decision making is about having, number 1, data, number 2, an algorithm to process the data, which produces, number 3, a result. Wait, I'm drawing my face again, sorry. Number 3, a result. And that goes back to number 4, we compare to reality, and that gives us more data. And we're, different types of data. Anyway, obviously, we're looking to have the result match reality. What happens for narcissists is that the result doesn't match reality. So they believe they're amazing, they're unstoppable, they're the best, they're entitled, they deserve everything, and they don't get it. The algorithm is akin to the ego, and also akin to ideas, and so ego, part of our identity, then T. So what happens is, if reality doesn't match the result, the ego and identity feel threatened, and therefore they come and deny reality, and therefore they come and they lie about data, because they want to start with the result. Say, the result is this, I'm the best, and I will reverse engineer all the ideas, and I'll reverse engineer the data. That's why they cherry pick data that's inaccurate in order to back up their ego, because they're in denial. This is my feeling. Cognitive narcissism is basically constant cognitive dissonance. So there's 7 tells of cognitive dissonance. And when you recognize the tells, this can help you ungaslight yourself, because quite often, so when people are here denying reality and denying the results and playing around with crazy mental models that don't make sense, if we listen to them, then we get really confused. That's one of the reasons why I point out, pay attention to the emotions people show. If people are too angry or upset, they haven't solved a problem, and they're using algorithms that will justify the reality they want or the result they want, and they'll be in denial of reality. You see this with loads of oversimplifications. You see this with a lot of things in the human sciences, where people come at it from an angry angle. If you read Karl Marx's letters, you see he was not a happy man, and he's had a lot of the symptoms of narcissism. And then you read his theories, and you go, actually, it makes a lot of sense. He's projecting a lot onto the world. So that's quite important. So back to the 7 tells. The 7 tells are really, I think, really helpful. I think this is one of the most helpful things I've come across recently. Whoops, there we go. 7 tells. Yeah, nice. Okay, the first tell, do it like this. No, I do numbers. There we go. 1 is the person changes topic. So the person says something and you prove that they're wrong and they change topic. Talk about something completely different. You want to talk about how... Oh, there we go. You want to talk about how they're not reliable and they're always late. And they go, well, it's not exactly like you're never late. You're changing topic. We're talking about you being late. Or you think I'm unreliable? Well, you're probably going to tell me that your ex was always on time. You're changing topic. You're saying I'm unreliable, but look, the traffic is terrible. You're changing topic. Like, a one-off is one thing. Something that's systematic is something completely different. Completely different. If they change topic, they don't have any argument. If you're right and you say something to me, it's easy to go, yeah, you're right. It's true, you're right. If I change topic, that's an obfuscation technique. It's trying to avoid talking about the topic. Number 1, changing topic. Number 2, that's going ad hominem. Ad hominem is when you attack the person instead of the argument. That's when somebody watches one of my videos, they don't like what I'm saying, and they go, you're an idiot. you're probably a narcissist. Okay, that's not an argument. That's an ad hominem. That's a personal attack. That's looking for excuses to not listen. That's looking for, instead of just going, I disagree, and because of X, Y, Z, which is fine. You're free to disagree. If you know why you disagree, it's great. You learned something, and maybe I'm going to learn something and change my mind, as I've done before multiple times in my life. When the person starts using ad hominems, you know you've won the argument because we start with our strongest argument first. And if one of the top arguments is an insult, you've won. The person's brain can't cope anymore. That's what I did in the video about the math. If someone claims that 2 plus 2 is let's say 4 plus 4 is 7, I don't need to insult them. We just sit down, work through the math, and prove to them that they're wrong. Because I know the math. It's fine. And if someone proves to me that I'm wrong, I'll think about it, but I'm not going to start ad homineming them. By the way, we're all vulnerable to cognitive dissonance. And if anything, smarter people are easier to manipulate. Because we can be very good at thinking logically, but we don't see the flaws we have in our logic. Whereas more, let's say, streetwise people are more likely to go, that makes no sense. I can't explain why, but it makes no sense. And I don't need to justify rationally why it makes no sense. I know it makes no sense. Number 1, change topic. Number 2, ad hominems. Number 3, this is a great one, mind reading. Mind reading, which is inaccurate, of course. The reason why you do this is because this. You say that because of that. You're doing that because you're jealous about this. It's mind reading. Very simply. We don't know why people do things. We don't know what they think. We can hear what they say, but we don't know what they think. I remember one person who had very clear examples of, so tangible examples of, it's not provocative, it would be ambiguous behavior around other people. And having a friend who had ambiguous behavior around other people. I mean, literally having multiple partners at the same time, but misleading all of them. When we were talking about it, this person then started going, well, your female friend, this one, the only reason why she's friends is because she wants that. Like, it's mind reading. Of course, I didn't have the vocabulary back then. That's mind reading. You got no clue. Maybe. But you're so certain that your explanation is the right one. No other explanation is okay. And you're changing topic. Like, ooh. And you're calling me a hypocrite. Ooh. There we go. A lot of the tells of cognitive dissonance. Number 3, mind reading. Number 4, that is the word salad. Make that a bit nicer. Word salad. The word salad, they use a lot of words. Individually, the words make sense. Put all together, the words make no sense. You can't make sense of it. It doesn't add up. Or you look at the different parts of the argument. I mentioned that before. Look at different parts of the argument. It doesn't add up. Sure, you can accuse someone of being a narcissist. Okay, that's clearly not a diagnostic. It's clearly an ad hominem. Some of these YouTubers are narcissists. That's an ad hominem. However, you're hinting at the fact that you can accuse them of being narcissists. You can diagnose them of being narcissists. Okay, and then you'll simultaneously say that you at least need to have a PhD to be able to diagnose people. Okay, make up your mind. If you have a PhD and you know how to do it, then say so. There'll be an interesting conversation. But if you go around accusing people of doing something whilst claiming that you can't do it because nobody can do it, you're doing two opposite things. Complete word salad, complete gobbledygook. So yeah, that's part of the thing of breaking it down to understand when there's no point. The next one is using analogies instead of reason. And using analogies instead of reason is what happens when, instead of putting together an argument of saying, for instance, saying for instance, if you want to go skiing, it's a good idea to wear warm clothes because otherwise you're going to get a cold. Listen, if you were to walk up a mountain, would you do it barefoot or would you do it wearing boots? You do it wearing boots because if you do it barefoot, then it's painful and there's no extra merit to things being painful. So if you go skiing, then wear warm clothes because it's not fun to be suffering needlessly. Here, I'm using reason, and I'm using an analogy to illustrate the reason. Using analogies instead of reason is something quite different. That would be telling someone, that would be akin to telling someone, you should wear this, you should wear a raincoat because you wouldn't go diving without an oxygen bottle, right? So you should wear a raincoat. It's got nothing to do with the oxygen bottle. Like, I should wear a raincoat. Why? Because it's raining? Because otherwise I'm going to get wet? If there's a reason, and then even there the oxygen bottle thing would be weird. If there's a reason, okay, use the reason and then use an analogy. If there's only an analogy and no reason, that tells you there's cognitive dissonance and they're not making any sense. Number 6, that is to insist it's complicated. Complicated. That shouldn't be on my... Okay, complicated and can't be summarized. And that is when you talk with someone and you basically say, you're making this point, could you explain it to me? It's not up to me to educate you. No, okay, but could you explain to me your point? It's so complicated I can't summarize it. Pretty much everything can be summarized. You know, to more or less levels of detail, but you can basically summarize things and go, you know, in a nutshell, this is what I'm talking about. In a nutshell, that's how things are. Of course, there's more complexity to it, but in a nutshell, this is the argument, and then we can go deeper. You know, that's what I'm doing with these videos. I'm summarizing these topics. They're complex. As you can see, we've been going for like 75 minutes now. Yes, I can go further, and I can summarize it. You know, summarizing here would be, I'm going to improvise. You have a disagreement with someone, don't accept their truth, whatever they say as being the objective truth. Just accept you've got 2 points of view. So look at what you see the facts being and start comparing that without having to argue with them. Look at the facts from your point of view. You can start making up your mind and look for a few key indicators to see if they're making any sense. You know, to what extent are they claiming there's only one possible interpretation? If they are, like, that's possibly a stupid person who can't keep more than one idea in their head at the same time, or it's someone who is a narcissist. And often it's very difficult to tell the difference between the two. And okay, can't be summarized. And then here we go. The next one, last one, number 7, is the so tell. The so tell is amazing. If you want to watch a beautiful, beautiful example of the so tell, watch the Jordan Peterson, Kathy Newman interview. He is very precise with his words. Agree with him or disagree with him, he's precise with his words. And she would try to twist his words systematically by going, so what you're really saying is, and then she'd say something that had no resemblance with what he was saying. So, for example, he was talking about various explanations for the gender pay gap. Say there's more than one reason. It's not just sexism. There are multiple things that explain why we see that there's a difference. And so that's simply his point, the multiple reasons. And she goes, so you're basically saying that women should be happy earning less. Like, no, he never said that. He's actively helping women earn more. How can you twist what he's saying into something that's so far away from what he actually said? He seems to be very good at generating cognitive dissonance in people, so it's fascinating to observe, you know, agree or disagree with him. Just fascinating to observe how people react. Oh, which reminds me, by the way, this is a great one. One of the crazy things people do. You mention someone you appreciate, and then they go, so, you agree with everything they said? Like, I don't even know everything they said. How can I agree with everything they said? I don't even agree with everything that I say. It makes no sense. You know, there we go. This is back to the word salad. That makes no sense. So you agree with everything this person says? No. No, no one has ever agreed with everything another person has ever said. It's never happened. Never. It's such a stupid comment to make. It's such a common one. And if we're not prepared to react to it, we fall for it. So you agree with everything. Of course I don't agree with everything. What a dumb thing to say. Like, idiot. Then you feel like going, like, idiot, But it's the same thing as before the Paris woman going, people could think that. The right answer is, really? Fine, okay, whatever. What do you think? Do you think that? If you do, say it. Say it and we talk about it. If you don't, what are you doing? Because when you say it, you make it sound like you do think it. Oh, no, I don't. Then back down and retract it and say you absolutely don't think it if you don't. Go on, back down. Or say it, we talk about it. This, by the way, is what happens. What I'm just doing now is when you build up a personality trait called being tough. And that's the opposite of being accommodating. This is something where it's not easy to be tough for some of us. We've been taught that being tough is not a good thing, but being tough simply means going, I'm not going to back, I'm not going to be a pushover. It's not, some things are not okay. For ourselves, it can be tough to be tough. But for example, if you imagine, some idiot trying to bully a little dog, you're going to stand up for that dog. You're not going to let someone do that. That's why I use like the drowning kittens image, or the, being mean to kittens. We don't let people be mean to kittens. That's not okay. They're so tiny and fragile and cute. We don't let people do that. Imagine you go to the beach in Oman, see little baby turtles come out of the sand and they're trying to get into the water, and you see crabs. I know that we should let nature do its thing, and I got sympathy for crabs, but I'm not letting little turtles get eaten by crabs. And especially if people wanted to come and stamp the turtles, I wouldn't let them do that. There's no way anyone's going to walk on a turtle under my watch. No way. It's not going to happen. So I'm willing to stand up for turtles. Standing up for ourselves is a little bit more difficult, but it's something we can learn. So there we go. With the so tell, we see it really, really commonly. Look for, if you hear so, brace yourself for the nonsense that's about to come. So you think that? No. It doesn't even make any sense most of the time. Nobody in their right mind would think that. So you really think that? No. That somebody's about to twist the words to make people sound completely unreasonable. And then the difficult thing is you want to go, well, I don't think that, but you start justifying, and then you fall. That's the wrestling in the mud. Makes you look bad. I think the best way around is just to go, so instead of arguing, no, I don't think that, is to go, your entire statement is so mind-blowingly absurd. I don't even know how you can entertain that kind of thought in your head. Like, what's wrong with you to believe that that's a possible, plausible explanation? Really? Is that really how you see the world? Do you really believe that people do this? Really? Like, what happened to you to live in that kind of universe? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. 7 Tells of Cognitive Dissonance from, here we go, Scott Adams. I should have written that before. There we go, Scott Adams. Very, very helpful. And yes, I have one more, and then we wrap it up, because it's really you've been really patient. Wow, 23 of you. That's amazing. Really patient. Number 8. Number 8 is observe the full outrage tactics. There we go. You might remember another video I spoke about how you can look at the offense that took place from 0 to 10, and you can look at the outrage. Normally, we'd assume, so here we go, let's say this correlates 5 here would be 5 there. We could believe if the offense is at 5 out of 10, the outrage is at 5 out of 10. Like, okay, fair enough. Why not? Healthy people will usually tone down the outrage compared to the offense. So if the offense is at a 5, then maybe the outrage is at a 3. Sort of like, we both know what you did was bad. I'm toning it down. What narcissists do is they go straight to 10 and they stay at 10. You dressed a way I don't like. I can't believe, how could you do that? It's impossible. I can't trust you. You invited me to this party and you didn't give me enough attention. I'm so upset. I'm so angry. I can't believe that you did that. That's full outrage. Again, Jordan Peterson, look at when the students were attacking him, or look with Brett Weinstein and Heather Haying when they were getting bullied at the university. That's full outrage. Whatever offense they did, assuming there was an offense, was not a 10 out of 10. But they were being accused of doing a 10 out of 10 offense, which clearly wasn't. But the outrage was 10 out of 10. This is what cry bullies do, incidentally. They set you up so they can get outraged. And then if they got outraged, like the first person to hit the 10 out of 10, it's like you hit the bell and then you've won, because obviously the most outraged person must be the most offended person. But that's a trick that they use. One of the reasons why they use this is because outrage tactics are scare tactics. And scare tactics, most of us don't really like conflict. It's not comfortable, especially when the other person is not reasonable. Like if both of us, if we don't get along and the tone goes up a bit, but we're both going up, and it's like we don't really want to do it, but let's just get it out. Let's just talk it through. We can be a bit more tense, but it's okay. There's respect. We like give blows, take blows in a respectful way. That's fine. When the other person's a psycho, we're afraid of doing it because we don't know how far they're going to go, and they're always willing to go further than us. And when they do this thing of going, "You mess with me, you're going to regret it," well, then we might be afraid of having proper conversations. And there the level of tension doesn't go too. It can go high, but not too high. Whatever the exact nuance would be. So there's the fear tactics, and remember, how do I present this? I'll present it very briefly. There's a personality model that I'll talk more about. Sorry, there we go. Personality model, I'll talk more about here we go, DISC personality model, which is really helpful if you know how to use it. I'll do videos where I explain how to really use it properly. For the time being, just remember, there are 4 different archetypes, 4 different energies, and we each have some of the different ones. We each use them a bit differently, to different extents. The D, the red, is, just use it as being, let's say, more direct. It's direct, logical, competitive, and also, so logical, competitive, and also tough. These are the main qualities. Then you have the big picture people, the inspiration. Inspiration, they tend to like concepts. A lot of what I do on this channel is super yellow dominated. A lot of inspiration, a lot of concepts, a lot of theory, but then I'm trying to make it, to balance it and make it useful. The green people are the stable people. These are much more people-oriented, so more accommodating, more empathy, more agreeable in general. And then the blue people are I forgot what the C stands for, but it's basically down to earth. I don't actually use the DISC acronym that much. I use the other ones. So basically down to earth. Now, the population is not 25% of each. About 10% of the population is. I was actually going to do a video about this, but here you get the you get the summary because you're watching so far. 10% of the population is the direct dominant. About 30% is inspiration driven. About 30% is the stability, and about 30% is down to earth. It's like between 20 and 30% for most of them. 1 person in 10 is the direct dominant, and then the rest is about 30%. Okay. All of us use more than one energy, but we tend to have 2 dominant ones, and the 2 dominant ones tend to be the neighboring ones. There would be, you have the red yellow, here we go. Yellow is like this, green is like that, and then blue is, wait a minute, I got this wrong. Here we go. Do it like this. There we go. Yellow, come on, green, and blue. So just visualize it this way. Most people don't really have, crap. Most people will have an overlap with the neighboring. So if people will be red and a bit of yellow, red and a bit of blue, yellow, part of them will be yellow and a bit of red, or yellow and some green, and then green will be green and a bit of yellow, green and a bit of blue, and blue will be blue and a bit of green, or blue and a bit of red. The majority of people are likely to fall with either blue or yellow and green. Either blue or yellow and green. Remember, the biggest fear of green people is to lose stability, and the thing they hate the most is conflict. If you try to pick a fight with people, you basically have one chance out of two that they hate conflict. And if you're willing to pick a fight and keep pushing, and they don't have the best boundaries, and they don't have the ability to trust their own sanity and the power of reasoning, they're easy to be manipulated. And there's a relatively high probability that if you're watching this live stream, your level of tough is not mind-blowingly high. And there's a high probability that you're not really a fan of conflict. Therefore, when people use the full outrage tactics on you, it works. Until you can see through it. And that is what this live stream was all about, and what this channel is all about, basically. So let's just recap, and then I'll take. You can let me know questions in the chat, by the way. But I'll just recap through this. Number one. So, number one, we compare objectively what the two people did, and we just list objectively what happened, and just compare. First of all, how many elements on each side. Then we look at the total, and we just calculate percentages. Here, if it's 1 out of 8 versus 7 out of 8, that's a 12.5% versus 87.5%. You might argue it's 50-50, but you have to argue why. Being too optimistic counts more than choosing to be late, choosing to drink too much, choosing to act embarrassing, choosing to be provocative, choosing to fall asleep in somebody else's bed, and choosing to leave abruptly. You have to argue it. If you don't argue it, then you don't have an argument. So just objectively and logically, that's not the case. That's the first point. The second point, observe which of the two people is absolutely certain that they are absolutely right, and which person is worried that they might have done something wrong. They might be certain they've done something wrong, but usually they're worried. Like when I was in Paris with this story, I was worried I'd done something wrong. And she was going, there's only one explanation, which is my explanation, and I'm certain. There's no room for doubt, none whatsoever. So observe, here we're trying to reduce doubt by basing it on logic and rationality and observable fact. And here it's simply your word against mine. And mine is right, so therefore you're wrong, and that's that. That's just a power struggle. By the way, observe people who want power struggles or who enjoy power struggles, and you're likely to find the psychos. Number 3, observe how they do responsibility shifts. Oops, there we go, responsibility shifts. In other words, when we do things, when do we take responsibility? When the person was taking care of her family and taking care of the person, or helping the person she promised to help, she was feeling responsible for that. She go, yeah, that's my responsibility. I was too optimistic. I could have done more, and so on. The friend took no responsibility. The only reason why I drank so much is because of you. You didn't give me attention. I was forced to drink. I couldn't help it. I was forced to sulk. I was forced to be late. I mean, I was forced to be late. Before the fact, I knew you'd be too busy, but I was still your fault. Really? Nah. Then, observe the anger. Is the anger directed towards the actions that the person did? Such as, you've got every right to go back to your country and bang a stranger and not tell me, even though you know it's a problem for me. You've got every right to let me buy a plane ticket, to waste a week of my time, all based on lies and deceit and pretending to be someone you're not. But I've got every right to be angry. I'm angry at your actions. And the reaction is, You're angry at my actions, you've got no right to be angry. Everything I did was justified. Everything. Nah. Look at this. Observe who's feeling anger towards the provable actions of someone else, and who is angry because of the other person's anger towards their actions. You've got every right to be angry about whatever you want. And people have got every right to do whatever they want. It's fine. But people who tell you you can't be angry, those are people who are manipulating you. Anger, just remember, in case you haven't seen it, because I mentioned it elsewhere, every emotion has a function. The function of anger is to tell us we have a goal and there's an obstacle. And anger gives us the strength or courage to overcome the obstacle and reach the goal. So anger is a great motivator, but a poor strategist. Anger is helpful when we're trying to figure out how to overcome the thing. If we struggle too much, and if you see somebody's face constantly being angry, they haven't overcome it. They haven't figured it out. It's something that I've seen elsewhere. People selling, I don't want to name names, but people selling courses on how to cope with narcissists and narcissism and how to heal and so on. And you look at their face and you go, you're still angry. And they go, of course, I've got good reason to be angry. Yeah, but if you're still angry, you're still wrestling with something. You haven't overcome your obstacle. As long as you're banging your head against the obstacle, it might be a bit misleading to tell people you can help them overcome the obstacle because you haven't figured it out yet. So I know you're trying to help. I mean, I'm assuming you're trying to help. Again, we got multiple motivations, trying to help, also trying to earn a living from it. I understand. Whatever, to each their own. But it's important to remember, observe the anger. The anger's great temporarily, but if you don't pick up on it, then we haven't overcome the obstacle. Hopefully we do at one point, unless we start identifying with the anger, which a number of people do. They identify with the anger, and they justify the anger through their worldview with theories. Karl Marx did that. Very angry man, but he justified everything through his theories. Okay, how did that work out? 100 million dead? Not great. Compare that to writings of Buddhist monks. Very, very different. And yeah, if you haven't seen Mathieu Ricard, look him up. He's inspiring. He's really cool. Interesting person, by the way, to look up also is Gabor Mate. Great doctor, talks about trauma. Not the most jovial person, and says a lot of really interesting things. And it's interesting just to observe and go, he's really wise, and he's also struggling with some things, and he's worked a lot of things out. And we can learn a lot from him whilst observing him, and always taking it with a pinch of salt. He's really helpful. I think he just doesn't show his joviality, but yeah, he's a great guy. Anyway, that was number 4. Then there was the Paris story. I don't think many people are watching from Paris, but seriously, if you are, and if you recognize me and recognize all of that, good luck. Number 5, the nonsensical accusations. Nonsensical accusations. Take the accusation, break it down. What is the first argument? What is the second argument? What is the third argument? What's the fourth argument? Does it make sense, or are there contradictions? If they're contradictions, doesn't make any sense. Like, what part of A or not A is the one that we should be paying attention to? I gave you the example of someone saying you need a PhD to diagnose someone. You shouldn't diagnose, even though I don't diagnose, but I'm diagnosing, even though I don't have a PhD. Like, make up your mind. Like, just pick one or the other. At least be coherent. If you're coherent, it's fine. If you're incoherent, I don't know what to do. Number 6, interpretations. They will say that their interpretation is the only acceptable interpretation. You can't have another interpretation. And they will also say that the worst possible interpretation is the only acceptable interpretation. Okay, maybe. But that tells you either they are incapable of holding more than one idea in their head at the same time. So that's close to being an idiot. That's possible. Or they're manipulating you. Or both. And then we have Scott Adams's 7 Tales of Cognitive Dissonance. He did a Twitter thread on that a few days ago. I really highly recommend him. Number 1, person changes topic. Number 2, the person attacks the other one. through insults and accusations. Number 3, mind reading. I can tell what you think, and it's usually the worst possible thing. Number 4, word salad. That taps on the previous one where it doesn't actually make any sense. Then we've got the analogies instead of reason. Again, you can use analogies, but there's also reason, and the thing makes sense, such as you don't want to go skiing and get cold because otherwise you're going to get sick. Unless you want to get sick, then knock yourself out, but otherwise just wear a coat. Makes more sense. Number 6, insist that something is complicated and can't be summarized. And then you have the so complicated can't be summarized, because that's a way that people simply avoid having putting the reasons together. It's just one of going, yeah, I can't do it. Well, if you can't do it, maybe you don't understand it properly. 1 second. Yeah. So the insisting it's too complicated. You can always summarize something. Here, listen, this is a summary. It gives you a high-level overview. We can go further. It's going to take more time, but you're capable of summarizing. The number 7, which is so classic, the so tell. I just use so, but, so what you're really saying is this. So when you say this, it means this. So when you... here we go. So you suggest. So what you're saying is, if someone shows any anger on their face, we should not listen to them. Like, obviously I'm not saying that. That was dumb. Of course I'm not saying that. I'm saying, listen to what they say, and also keep in mind what the face is telling you. If someone seems completely angry, then just remember they're coming at things from an angry place. So what? You decide if it makes sense. You decide if their anger is clouding their judgment, because you can judge. The whole point is that you regain your power of reasoning, but not that you start delegating to people. That's a really dangerous one. So when you make an argument that makes sense and someone uses so, expect them to distort what you're about to say. And if they do, the right response, instead of arguing back, is just to rubbish it. If it makes no sense, go, obviously I don't think that. Do you really think I think that? Why would anyone even think that? That makes no sense. Like, what a bizarre thing. 7 tells of cognitive dissonance, and then we have remember the full outrage tactics. Full outrage is there to scare you into submission, to make you avoid conflict. When people act outraged, either they're unhinged and they need psychotherapy, or they're simply bullying people and they need psychotherapy, but they won't get it. Outraged people, there's the very, very few situations in which outrage is even remotely appropriate, and those are situations where people typically will ramp things up gradually, and even there the outrage is probably not the optimal strategy to get what you want. But you can imagine in real dictatorships, like your family's about to be taken from you, yes, I can imagine the outrage and despair, absolutely. But over trivial things, no. People who get outraged over trivial things, that's ridiculous. And especially people who get outraged quickly over trivial things. Like, you disagree with me on something, I'm gonna be outraged and accuse you of the worst possible things. No, that's just toxic people trying to manipulate. Okay, I think that I covered pretty much everything. So I'm going to go through the chat right now. I listened to the recommendations, by the way, last time, which was don't interrupt the flow. You can read the chat at the end, and we're going to enjoy chatting. So thank you very much for having enjoyed chatting. Let me know if you have... Oh yes, conscientiousness. Excellent. Thank you. That was with the disc. Here we go. Conscientiousness. Remember also the stuff with the statistics. This is really important. You can also look up these things. I'll do videos sharing a better model than disc. It's like disc, but goes much further, much further. And I will be having some experts join me to talk about this specifically in line with this. By the way, as I have 30 of you watching now, if you want to have notifications for future videos, I've started a Telegram channel. So Telegram is like a competitor to WhatsApp, but a bit more secure. There's a Telegram channel. I simply post if there's a new video or there's something out coming up. You sign up with your phone number. I don't know whose number it is, and I'm not going to do anything with that. You don't see the other people's phone numbers. So sometimes YouTube notifications are enough, but in case you want more, then Telegram's a great way to do it. Just look up F. Riberson on Telegram and Decoding Narcissism. And their Telegram, there we go. There's the podcast. I just did an episode yesterday that's a little bit different. That's easier to do because I'm not filming and not doing the live stream. Anyway, I think that's pretty cool now. I will... There we go. I'm just going to go through the comments. Let me know if you have any questions, by the way, and I'll have a sip of water and go through the comments now. Okay, so... Yeah, exactly. False accusations. That's another form of gaslighting. One of the tricks there, by the way. Here we go. I'll show you this. So one of the tricks they use with the false accusations is we do a scale from 0 to 10 of how bad something is. Let's say you do something that objectively might land at between a 3 and a 5, or 3, let's say 3 and a 7. So let's say, for example, being in with the situation in Paris. I go to Paris, I do the things. Probably I could have communicated better with her. I could have been a bit more open. However, she wasn't responding to messages easily and quickly. My assumption was she was too busy and I didn't want to be a burden, and she made me feel like I would be a burden. That's another trick narcissists do. They make you feel like you're going to be a burden, so you can't communicate. Then when you withhold communication to avoid being a burden, then they accuse you of withholding communication and, not being open enough. So the trick that they use is they will accuse you at 10 out of 10. Worst possible explanation. So what you do is you try struggling back down in that direction. Go, but, reasons and explanations and so on and so forth. And then what they do is they pull back in this direction, and it feels terrible. It feels terrible because if they really believe the thing they accuse you of, then you'd be an awful person. So you need, in order to stay safe, you need to make sure that it's more balanced. And they basically watch you struggle. So when people over-accuse you of something, if you try to rationalize and you try to explain, no, it's not a 10, it's lower, you're playing into their game. Remember I did the videos about games? You're playing into their game of, let me try to bring it down, and they just have to go, I don't believe you, so I'm bringing it back up. Sort of hinting that it's going to be a 10. The right thing to do is completely shine the spotlight onto the 10. Is that really what you're thinking? Like seriously? Like seriously? Is that really what you're thinking? Seriously? Why would you think that? If that's really what you're thinking, say so. If you're not thinking it, then tell me that you're not thinking it. And tell me why you're not thinking it. Let's really push. Like, you want to get into the dirt? We're going to go in the dirt. Fine, I got no problem with that. So that's how this trick works. Okay. This is back at the beginning. Listen. So, you point out, misremembering isn't gaslighting. Yes, there's one thing to misremember and be, I'm pretty certain, however I have a bit of doubt. It's something else to go, I'm adamant, I'm completely right and you're completely wrong. We like giving the benefit of doubt to other people. Like, I'm pretty sure that I did this or said that, but, if you've got another thing, it's possible I'm wrong. But do you admit that it's possible that you're wrong? If there's only one person showing flexibility, then you might want to look at the person who never, ever shows any flexibility. Okay. The difference between two character types is fascinating. What was a choice and what was out of their control? Well, what was out of control, super simple. In this case, you have a family member who's got a situation, they need your help. That's it. Everything else, choosing how much you drink, your control. Choosing to be late, your control. Choosing how you behave when you drink, your control. Adults tend to know when things might get a bit out of hand and control themselves. If they don't, they just don't want to. That's quite Quite simple. I like that responsibility dysmorphia. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Not allowed to get angry. Okay. Yeah, exactly. 30% commission. She informed me after I'd already done the event and had sessions with people. She didn't tell me before, didn't mention anything, and she went through the common friend to tell me that she was upset, to make me feel even worse. So she was involving the friend, which she shouldn't have done. She could have told me directly, and what was I going to say? But even there, like other people said, seriously, 30% is too high, 20% is steep. And her clients didn't know about it. She said, yeah, that's between us, you shouldn't tell them. I ended up telling one or two, going, I just want to let you know that I'm basically working for very little, and I'm giving you a lot of time. Yeah, I think someone made a comment, just going, she's taking 30% cut. I'm fine doing it. Just, I prefer transparency. By the way, eventually I will run everyone through everyone wants to see it, what's going on in the channel, like the statistics and revenue and so on. And yeah, exactly, she was projecting. Absolutely. Okay, here we go. Just skimming through pretty quickly. And yeah, okay, conscientiousness, exactly. Yeah, listen, with these different personality types, sometimes use different letters. So usually D is dominant or directive or direct or so on. It's roughly the same. It's an archetype. There are many different words that can describe it. So conscientious, concrete, yeah, basically conscientious. It's the down to earth, likes the details, likes to, is not very flexible and is very reliable. Okay. Hey, Shivaskil, good to see you. And Anne, good to see you too. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you. Good grief, nearly 2 hours. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. I look forward to seeing you again soon. It's, as you can tell, it's easier for me to run through something like this and just explain it like I would in a workshop than do videos. Videos take much more time, so I hope you like the format of doing live streams. I really enjoy it when I see the people chatting and being able to have have these conversations. Most of the time there's a bit more of a dialogue, but this time I had a lot of things to share, so I hope that is helpful. Let me know in the comments what you found helpful. Let me know in the comments if you're applying anything. It might be helping others if they see how you apply it and how you use it to make it helpful. I won't take up more of your time. So thank you so much for showing up, and yeah, I'll disconnect. Everyone, have a great, what day are we? Thursday. Have a great end of week. Have a great weekend. Thank you for your support. And yeah, by the way, I'll probably be re-recording some old videos. I know a lot of old videos are not getting very much traction, and I can do a much better job. I think I'm better now than I was a few years ago. Oh yeah, okay, link to the Telegram channel, absolutely. Here we go. Thank you for suggesting that. There we are. And I should be able to. I'm wondering where it is. So I got this on my computer. Come on, this is ridiculous. If you, wait, let me see. Let me see how to do this. I guess that if I do like this, so I'm looking at different websites. looking to see where I can find it. It probably is Telegram. Something like this. No, that doesn't work. Oh dear, I'm not sure where it is. Sorry to say. I'm not sure where it is. If you, basically on Telegram, just look up Fribison. So F Ribison. You should find it. I know I posted it. Oh yeah, wait, here we go. I did a community post the other day. Posts. There we go. This is it. Okay, and oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. Got it. I could have done that before. And I hope that you're seeing, by the way, the different. There we are. I hope that you're seeing the different notifications. No worries, no worries. It's that's very helpful. Good that you remind me of this. So I hope you're seeing different notifications. Like I said, Telegram, that allows me to post things directly. Make sure you receive it. And cool. Happy you got it. Okay. There we go. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you soon. Loads of people connected. That's really cool. Thank you. And yeah, I know, by the way, that YouTube isn't pushing videos very much. It depends of course, how much you upload, what other people do, and so on. And I honestly can't compete with the people who are putting up a video every day, 2 days, 3 days, or 2, 3 per day. They've got huge production teams, and it's me, and I've got a lot of other things on my plate. So if ever you want to go through older videos, you can do that. And I might just, on the Telegram channel, just suggest other people, suggest a video that I think is fun, and then post a few comments about that, because that might be an interesting dive in. And then also maybe just answer some questions on there. That could be fun. Anyway, thank you everyone very much. I see still 22 people watching. Thank you. I hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments what was good, and that way you're going to be helping other people also ungaslight themselves. I'm going to let this run for the last 15 seconds, because if I cut it now, it's going to get cut mid-sentence. So thank you very much, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.